So I'm about to head down to the Sandy City Justice Court right now. So, as far as expectations, I'm not really sure. I've sat in on courts before, so as far as generic court stuff goes, I know a little bit more of what to expect there. Just general proceedings. I've been to court before. This will probably be a little bit different, so I'm not really sure what to expect here because it's for a domestic violence hearing. I would imagine, given some elements of it or aspects of it, I'm betting we're going to see some stuff, or that I will see some stuff related to gender as far as it applies to the law, given how it kind of works with domestic violence and how men are treated in the justice system versus women, those sort of things. So some demographic stuff, I'm expecting to see a little bit of that. I do know, as far as I could say about this, I do know that the person who is, I guess, not being prosecuted, but essentially the defendant or whatever, is a repeat offender. So they have a history with the Sandy City Police Department. So I'm betting that there's definitely going to be some of the stuff about repeat players going on a little bit with that. Mostly what I'm expecting is just to see some of those demographic stuff seeing some of that demographic stuff come into play. And yeah, we'll see what happens.
6 hours later.
So, got back from court a little while ago, kind of put some notes together. So, Sutton specifically talks about like laws and normative system and stuff like that, and very specifically that it's like a moral system. And that was actually very present in the whole like proceeding when I was there. The judge actually mentioned specifically that like the law is sort of like the whole like kind of the arbiter of right and wrong, that's what the law is and the function of law, and that was sort of their perspective. And that kind of leads into something that Calavita talked about, which was that like administrative decisions are usually based on the preferences of the administrator themselves, and like that ties pretty much together perfectly because this person's perspective on what the law was pretty much dictated the whole process of the court, and like the direction everything went, the tone, all of that stuff was pretty much dictated by the judge who was there and their perspective on the law. And then, yeah, I mentioned, so in my pre-court video, I mentioned the whole like thing with repeat players and stuff like that. And again, that was really apparent. So I knew going in that this person had kind of like not like a rap sheet, but had encountered law enforcement or the criminal justice system previously. What I didn't know is they actually had past experience with this specific judge outside of this case. So there have been like a couple hearings, I guess. This is the only one that I've involved with this. A lot of it's prior to my internship stuff. But they actually know the judge. Not in like the, kind of rich white people way of like, I know the judge so I can get out of trouble. It's more that they know, it's like a negative version of that, where the judge sees them, it's like a negative spin on the whole repeat player thing. So rather than giving this person the opportunity to know the system and operate within the system, it negatively reflects on them because they're the ones in trouble with the system. So I guess to kind of conclude, it was interesting, like sort of comparing all this to like OJ episodes and the podcast that we listened to. One big takeaway was that how the law applies differently to everybody. It talks about kind of like legal pluralism, I think, is mentioned by Sutton, and then that kind of, it's not quite to that extent, but looking at it, that we're just, the law in general applies so differently to everybody based on circumstances a lot of times outside their control. I mean, OJ was crazy celebrity, got treated differently, but then he was also black, so that changed how everything was perceived. All the stuff that happened in Ohio and Cleveland specifically in the podcast, all those things, it applies differently to different people. And so I think that it was just very interesting to see, and at a very personal level, in the sense that it's my town, that was on full display.